Hi, it's Mickey Dedier from Grassroots Initiation. I spoke to a friend yesterday who's writing a book about men, and he's interviewing me for one of the chapters. And quite early in the interview, I said, I couldn't tell you what a man is. And if I'm not misjudging him, he said, me neither, and looked relieved. Um, and I wanted to talk about the difference between knowing what a man is and knowing what a man does. Because if we're handing our sons over to friends and family to initiate our boys, then friends and family, including ourselves, will have to consider what a man does. Now, what's the distinction I'm making there between the label and the skill set? Well, initiating a boy is a way of crafting a human. Now, we all need to become humans, but in modern days, it's understood that we become humans just by getting older. And that's a modern understanding of it. The older understanding is that an adult was distinct from a child and had distinct responsibilities and had a different way of being in the world that had to be crafted. There are rites of passage for girls to become women. And I don't consider that within my remit to know what that looks like. Although I'm told by friends who have been involved in some of the processes and ceremonies that have involved my boys that in large part they're similar. But because the question came up, I wanted to dwell on it for a moment. What is the skill set of a man? Now, I'm sitting here in Sweden, and you are likely in another country, possibly on another continent. So just asking what's the skill set of a man in this context of coming to you across the wires, as it were, would suggest there is global, a globally applicable answer to that question. So my first caveat is that all initiations are local to place and specific to time. What the function of a man is in the early 1900s is different from the function of man in the 1940s and is different to the function of man today. And the function of a man where I am here in Sweden might be, hopefully, different to what a man could do where you are. So that's one caveat. It's easy these days when we are watching each other speaking like this on the internet or on social media that we have some sort of idea of franchising. There are large organizations that work to support men that are international, and they have similar protocols and approaches no matter where they go. Uh, that's not what I'm offering. That's not what I'm talking about, though it's very, very supportive to many. Grassroots initiation is engaging community locally when your boy reaches adolescence and hopefully a little bit before so they can be prepared in crafting a man of service to your locale. So if we speak about what is a man, we're talking about identity. And if masculinity is an identity, then it's something rather fixed. It's an essence, if you will. It's a inherent way of being or an inherent appearance. And you say, that's a man, that's not a man. Now, for those of us engaged with these questions, we could ask instead, okay, so we are in initiation. What are we doing? We're initiating the child into adulthood. We're initiating the boy into manhood. And that means childhood has to come to an end. The sense that we are on the receiving end of all the graces in all the world is coming to an end. From the moment we were born and even before, having been fed, catered to, tended to, and receiving the blessings of our community and of our family, that's coming to an end in the way that we know it. We are no longer the center of the world. Instead, through initiation, we become fully enmeshed in a kinship web in which we have a relational responsibility. That responsibility is a function of a man. Put otherwise, the expression of a man in a relational context is different in certain ways to a woman, and it's expressed differently. Now, you might think that I'm going to go through and say what are those functions, and I'm not actually, because I think it's so important that we engage with that conversation within our family, for fathers with other men, for mothers with other women, and within our community as well, especially if you're interested in the work I do and others do in bringing initiation, rites of passage, transformation from boyhood to young adulthood back home and democratizing that process. These conversations are essential for that transformation to occur in a way that is not foreign to the boy, that it's conducted by people he knows, and that is conducted in a way that makes him immediately relevant, that it's not abstract, that it's not a theory, but is applicable. One example, your son is coming of age, and you have spent the time to make sure that he has some other men than the father around him, and that he trusts these men, and that you might one day ask one of these men to be part of the small circle that will guide him towards masculinity through a rite of passage. And during the preparatory phase of that, you might say, look, can my son come and visit you at home? Or possibly, can my son come and visit you at work? Can he share in your labor? Can he see a little bit what it is you do and how you do it and what it costs and what it takes you to do it? That way he gets to live for a while as someone he trusts and looks up to, and maybe he'll even choose that profession later on. And he can see that man work, and he can see that man and his household, and he can see that man possibly with his children, and he can see that man with his friends, and learn something about that question. And the men who you've entrusted to initiate your son, when they wonder about this, they're going to have to dig deep, and they might come up with all kinds of answers to it. And when it comes to the ordeal of initiation, they may have found ways to put him through some steps that dissolves that sense of being centered, and instead teaches the boy that he is no more important than anyone else. He's significant, but not more significant than anyone else, human or otherwise, and that he is of service to all that which has served him for so long, and that he builds the capacity to feed those who fed him all along, and he becomes a fully fledged member of community over time. So young adulthood is a time to begin to practice with guidance how to function in that way, in a way that's particular to him, in a way that's particular to the place where he finds himself, and particular to the skill sets and gifts that he holds. Now, if he serves that way of functioning, that way of being needed, will begin to appear as qualities. He's going to begin to have certain qualities as a result of the way he serves. And those qualities are recognizable. And that might be qualities such as generosity, helpfulness, peacefulness, and other ways in which people recognize that there is a man who's maturing well, who's serving well, and who's been guided well. So those are some thoughts on how a man or how a boy can be transformed into someone who serves rather than someone who merely deserves. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe. I look forward to your comments. Bye-bye.